Welcome to the official YouTube channel of Gaming Hub. We are always trying to give you most trending news around the globe. In this episode we will discuss about The Dark Pictures, The Devil in Me review. Usually, the most unsettling thing you can find in a hotel is a mysterious mattress stain or clumps of hair in the shower drain.
Speaking. Some of the rooms are full recreations from the murder castle.
This place does give me the willies.
You watch too many horror movies.
Fine, just don't come crying to me if you end up dead. Great.
This dust farm is exactly what I don't need.
Scream if you need me for anything.
Guys, is that you?
There's a ton of killer footage to be had here.
My time is at a premium. We need to do this today.
What the f*** is this?
Oh my god. Are you shooting any of this? No one is gonna believe it without proof. Wait, no! That thing. Someone, please! What happened?
What the f***? Where is this?
It's a fucking booby trap. Into the creepy maintenance room in the creepy hotel on the creepy island. Shoot a dog about a serial killer all alone and without my skydive. No!
Erin, we would be lost if you actually do something. Oh my god.
Every step of the way, and now it's getting scary.
Would it kill you to think positively just once?
I'm not playing detective, I just want to survive.
Playing detective is how we survive.
Get away from me!
Fuck! He's just gonna pick us off one by one, isn't he?
I've already had one asthma attack today, and this thing.
I told you what I had. Please don't waste my time.
I told my team they're free this weekend. It's amazing. What we can get here can take the show to the next level. Actually, I didn't know.
You're shitting me.
We're trapped.
What do we do?
This place is massive. Surely there is a pack of cigarettes in here somewhere. Ah! David!
It's gonna be the best cigarette of your life.
Dad! Kate, despite our bickering, you are the heart of this show.
When we the first time, Charles booked an expert who's nothing more than a serial killer groupie.
All that's missing is a big final twist.
I'm in a privileged position.
What do we know about this guy? He's rich, he's reckless, he's obsessed with H.H. Holmes. Totally sane, I'm sure.
Some of the rules
Missing is
are...
a big final twist.
Lorna Entertainment.
Charles Larned, please.
Speak.
My name is Brandon Black.
But The Devil in Me presents you with accommodations that are less like a best western and more like your worst nightmare. Inspired by a real-life murder castle and its infamous serial killer hotelier, the fourth and final episode in The Dark Pictures Anthology's first season presents a fascinating facility full of ghastly death traps and creepy animatronics to encounter. Unfortunately, it squanders it all on a bland band of lead characters, and pads its fun time with tension-draining detours that made me wish I could have called down to reception to request an earlier checkout time. The Devil in Me's premise is certainly a tantalizing one. An unsolicited invitation to spend the night in a remotely located reconstruction of H.H. Holmes' House of Horrors would seem easier to turn down than the volume on a silent movie. but it proves to be too good to refuse for a small crew of filmmakers struggling to produce a documentary on America's first serial killer. The team is effectively there just to grab footage that will lend some authenticity to its production, and indulge in the lavish hospitality of reclusive hotel owner Grantham Gillett. But the promise of bed and breakfast soon gives way to the threat of bedlam and bloodlust as it becomes clear that Dumet isn't just intent on recreating the look and feel of the World's Fair Hotel, but reenacting the horrifying events that took place within its maze-like structure too. The Devil in Me tells us about the unexpected adventure that the 5 members of Lonnet Entertainment will face, a small television production company with an investigative program on serial killers. To finish their first season and ensure their continuity, they must make one last memorable show. Its peculiar leader, Charlie, receives a call one day from a collector of H.H. Holmes memorabilia, who makes them an offer they cannot refuse, to film the program in his particular recreation, as a tourist attraction, of the Castle of the Murders of Holmes. With many doubts on the part of his team, full of internal quarrels among its members, they leave for the island with the aim of giving everything for the program, maybe even their lives. If you have seen the trailer, the references to the Saw series are more than evident. The Castle of Murders is a twisted playground for our host, full of traps and mysteries that he will use to terrify and hunt us down. In this way, the figure of the murderer who plays with us is recovered. Although the tone of Until Dawn was more that of a slasher movie, here we are closer to the terror and tension exerted by sagas like the one starring Jigsaw, but also by products like the wonderful Mindhunter. At Mindhunter we saw the birth of the behavioral sciences unit within the FBI, dedicated to understanding and predicting the behavior of serial killers through rigorous study of their performance. Although it was a program whose objective was not to be framed within terror, The Devil in surprises me, not only sublimely getting us into the role of victims who know they are trapped by someone like that, but also when it comes to exploring the psyche of this murderer. The first 2/3 of the game or so are focused on delving into our captor's methodology and motivations, while trying to survive. The Castle of Murders has a delicious design, coherent, varied, disturbing and, above all, full of details and information that help build the profile of the murderer. The setting is unbeatable, a perfect mix of Saw and The Shining. Also inspired, without going into spoilers, in a certain cult film of the genre from the 2000s. Turn the castle into one more character, capable of generating fear, anxiety and paranoia with enormous ease. Not only are the scares particularly well thought out and introduced, but there are really exhausting sections that play very well with the resources of the setting. Supermassive games, until now, have always focused on delivering very cinematic horror experiences, heavily supported in their cinematics, exploration, and decisions. While that hasn't changed in The Devil in Me, its makers have greatly increased the player's ability to interact with the environment, adding new, albeit simple, layers of gameplay that make it feel like a very fresh proposition. It is something that is not only noticeable at the controls, it also directly conditions the level design of the game, more careful and varied than in previous installments. Our characters will be able to jump over obstacles, crouch, hide and even move and use elements on the stage such as platforms to reach certain places, in the form of simple puzzles. There will be other challenges that will require our ingenuity, such as looking for codes to open doors, fixing fuse boxes or finding specific keys. Of course, we are not dealing with a Resident Evil, but if you are used to this playable scheme, being able to carry out all these actions in a simple and habitual way in real time. Unlike the previous installments in the Dark Pictures Anthology, which were each inspired by supernatural evils, The Devil in Me's roots in real historical events brings a far more plausible edge to its horror, which I personally find far more compelling than fantastical tales of ghosts and vampires. Uncovering the clues about the hotel's disturbing origins and the true identity of its owner remained a gripping endeavor, and I was definitely more preoccupied with piecing its central mystery together than I was with ensuring its 5 playable leads each remained in one piece by the end. The main problem with its cast is that they are so uniformly uninteresting that I never felt particularly invested in their attempts to survive this harrowing stay in the Heartstab Hotel. The Devil in Me's early cast interactions provide a broad insight into the Group's dynamic. Lighting tech Jamie and sound engineer Erin are nurturing a budding romance. Journalist Kate and cameraman Mark are getting over a breakup, while the only thing that director Charlie pines for is his lost packet of cigarettes. But the writing just isn't strong enough to put any real meat on their bones before it can be burnt or bludgeoned by one of the hotel's devious torture devices. Developer Supermassive Games did a much better job at adding a believably human spark to its cast via the friendly quips in the quarry earlier this year, but here any such attempts at playful banter all too frequently fall flat, and it doesn't help when the lines are often delivered with dead-eyed stares and stilted movements that make it seem like each character is literally scared stiff. There's just very little warmth to anyone on screen. And thus when 3 members of the team were snuffed out during my 7-hour playthrough, each of their grisly fates elicited shrugs of apathy instead of shrieks of anguish. There was still a solid serving of scares though, typically delivered via the sudden jolting to life of the warped animatronic hotel workers and residents. First, introduced in the form of an ominously silent bartender in the hotel bar and growing increasingly twisted in design as the story progresses through the darkest recesses of the building. A more physical threat is the mysterious masked assailant dressed as H.H. Holmes who stalks the separated members of your squad from the shadows like a bowler hat wearing Michael Myers. The occasional encounters with him successfully ratchet up the tension even though they each rely on the reused set of run or hide decisions and quick-time events that have long become the standard in Supermassive's horror template. Such tension is rarely maintained for long, however, since despite the variety of torture chambers to be found in its sadistic setting, the main thing that the devil in me seems hellbent on killing is time. There are significant stretches spent meandering around in the gloom, shimmying along ledges and crawling under fallen trees in the hotel's island surroundings where you are safe in the knowledge that absolutely nothing can hurt you when you're outside of an interactive cutscene. There are certainly secrets to find, like the premonitions that hint at potential character fates, but there's also boring crate pushing environmental puzzles and balance beam walks that do little but pump the brakes on your progress forward. The mansion itself is rich with ornate detail and atmosphere. Every walk down a darkened hallway seems slightly more hair-raising when accompanied by scratchy opera music revolving on an old gramophone, but it too rarely feels particularly dangerous to explore. False walls that shift around you are intended to disorientate and induce panic, but instead prove to be little more than a minor inconvenience as you saunter from one end of the obstructed hallway to the other looking for the one door that doesn't have a locked padlock icon floating in front of it. It's surprising just how sedated the devil in me can seem, and at times it felt like I checked into the world's most terrifying hotel but forgotten to take the do not disturb sign off the door. The most interesting case, not to gut everyone, is that of Erin, who will have a directional microphone and an inhaler. Erin is asthmatic, so she will need to use the inhaler to catch her breath in stressful situations or in the presence of a lot of dust. However, the inhaler has limited charges, so we'll have to ration them wisely. For her part, the directional microphone will help us to orient ourselves, as well as to star in a memorable and distressing sequence. Some objects will serve us to illuminate, open certain boxes or doors, etc., while others will determine our destiny depending on what situations. Finding and taking advantage of the inventory will help us, in addition to getting all the collectibles and information, an element that can also condition our success, to favor the exploration of its scenarios in an organic way. In fact, it is the company's game in which I have found the highest percentage of documents in the first round, thanks to how much this design favors the fact that we investigate the rooms in depth. Of course, it could have been used more, and if it suits the whole so well, it is because we are used to the simplicity of other titles from the developer. However, that does not mean that it adds fun and variety, without sacrificing the film cut of a proposal. Efforts have at least been made to make each playable character's sequences feel distinct. For starters, they are equipped with a range of contrasting light sources in order to navigate their way through the shadows. The flickering flame of Charlie's Zippo lighter casts an amber glow around his immediate surroundings, while Mark's camera flash gives only a momentary glimpse at what lies ahead in brief bursts at a time. For example, the latter would have been a great way to startle with flashes of horror like the instant camera in developer Bloodious Games Madison, but unfortunately it's not used nearly as creatively here. A modest inventory system has also been included for the first time in the Dark Pictures Anthology series, and this at least introduces different ways to interact with elements of your surroundings. Charlie's business card can be used to jimmy the locks of certain drawers in order to access additional evidence, while Erin's shotgun microphone is used to a reasonably unsettling effect in one sequence to isolate the tortured moans of an unseen victim. At times it felt like I checked into the world's most terrifying hotel but forgotten to take the do not disturb sign off the door. However, many of the unique character-specific tools seem somewhat redundant. Jamie has an electrical multimeter to help her repair tripped fuse boxes, but its analog display doesn't really seem to indicate anything of consequence as you idly flick the switches in the sequence indicated by each fuse box's instructions. Meanwhile, the monopod for Mark's camera is eventually augmented with a sharpened drill bit to fashion it into a weapon, yet I was never presented with an opportunity to use it even though he stuck around all the way to the end credits. Such is the branching nature of the Devil in Me's narrative that subsequent playthroughs may well uncover more meaningful uses for these devices, but based on my first experience, the inventory system seems like an addition to the Dark Anthology formula that's more superficial and supermassive. The Devil in Me's Twisted Murder Castle setting provides the literal foundations for what could have been an exciting horror adventure, but pacing problems and an insipid group of potential victims makes for a slaycation that's low in stakes and lacking in any substantial thrills or hand-wringing decisions to make. Efforts to bring gameplay variety to each playable character haven't really shaken things up to any notable degree, and the quick-time event-based survival sequences adhere to a stress-inducing formula that's starting to feel a bit too familiar. Ominous animatronics and a hulking aggressor mean the concluding chapter of the Dark Pictures Anthology is still capable of inducing the occasional jump scare, but for the most part the Devil in Me's tour through a maniac's mansion is disappointingly lacking in any real menace or surprise. The successful setting of the Devil in Me would not be possible without a technical section to match. It is true that, although it is above what has been seen in the rest of the anthology, it does not reach the levels of photorealism seen in The Quarry, especially with regard to the facial expressions and animations of the protagonists. Even so, everything that concerns the settings, effects and the sound section is outstanding, successfully achieving the terrifying experience they were looking for. Playing The Devil in Me with headphones has been one of the scariest experiences of the year. The Dark Pictures Anthology, The Devil in Me is one of the company's best games, as well as one of the horror titles of the year. Thanks to a fascinating and well-used premise, at least, most of the time, as well as an interest in revitalizing its playable formula, The Devil in Me is an abyss worth peering into, a successful title both when it comes to amuse and scare. It is true that it could have been more ambitious when introducing these new mechanics that, although they add a lot to the whole, are still very simple. However, they establish an exciting base for the future. Thanks for watching this video, and do comment on this video and stay tuned for our next update about
I'll take your luggage up to your room and ensure that everything is... Just decide to purchase anything, and we'll add it to your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. We appreciate it.
The pleasure is all mine.
Pardon me, miss.
Careful. Easily crossed with men who act fresh. Lovely. Thanks for asking.
Well, let's just head up. I'm sure the room is ready. Perhaps my wife, Mrs. Whitman, would like to sign. Yes, today's the beginning of our honeymoon.
Congratulations. In that case, an upgrade is in order. A honeymoon suite it is.
Oh, well, the rates that much higher?
Think nothing of it. The same rates as your regular. The upgrade is on us.
Kind. Thank you, Mr.
Holmes. Henry Howard Holmes.
You have a lovely hotel, Mr. Holmes.
Well, thank you very much. I designed and built most of it myself.
You're an architect, then?
Architect, designer, builder, doctor, artist. I'm a man of many interests. Please have a look around. We have sundries and gifts at the pharmacy counter.
See anything weird over there at the jewelry counter? Anything fancy? Wonder what's in here?
I'm starting to think I've gone and married a thrill seeker. Ferris wheels, forbidden rooms. Are we looking for excitement, perhaps? Nothing but an unfinished work. See what happens when you chase a thrill?
This isn't trying to get out of the Ferris wheel.
I know.
Wait. What's that? reconvene.
I know that word. It's French for something illicit.
Shush. Shave.
I think I forgot to pack my razor and kit.
I'm sure the pharmacy downstairs has them.
Don't be too long in that bath.
Don't you worry.